Hello, my name is Merle Strege, and I'm a professor at Anderson University. By training, I'm a historian of Christianity. I've been a Sunday school curriculum writer and a Sunday school teacher for many, many years, in fact, more years than I care to count. But today, I'm here to talk to you about the interpretation of one of the resurrection narratives, a text that comes from the Gospel according to Matthew. Not just Matthew's narrative, but also because other students in the Sunday school curriculum plan will be using Mark's narrative. We want to talk about some of the similarities and actually some of the differences in those two accounts. Matthew's account, in many respects, is the most detailed of the resurrection narratives, and Matthew mentions some events or some individuals who are not mentioned in the other Gospels. For example, Matthew specifically mentions an earthquake, and this earthquake is going on, and the stone is being rolled away, even as there are witnesses present to the resurrection. They do not actually see Jesus resurrected, but the stone is rolled away to reveal an empty tomb. Mary and the other Mary, as she is referred to, talk to the soldiers. There are soldiers present in Matthew's account, and they talk to these soldiers as well. And those are two specifically very different items, because Mark's gospel does not mention an earthquake, and it doesn't mention soldiers. It's also the case that Mark mentions the name of another woman who Matthew's account does not mention. Her name in Mark's gospel is Salome. At the end of Mark's account of the resurrection, or near the end of it, the two Marys go back, and they are anxious to tell the disciples everything that they have seen and that they have witnessed. On the other hand, in Mark's gospel, the women, the two Marys and Salome, decide that they will not tell anyone of what they have seen and heard. So, as faithful interpreters of these texts, how are we to account for these differences in the narratives? And if we were to include Luke as well in John's gospel, we'd find still some other differences in these accounts. Now, critics of Christianity, or people who've been critical of the New Testament, quickly seize on these differences in these accounts and argue that because of the differences, it must be the case that these stories are fabrications, and that the various witnesses, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, just didn't get their story straight. They should have collaborated, and because there's no evidence of collaboration, that to these critics points up the very real belief that the resurrection narratives are fabrications. But we need to think about that a little bit. Eyewitness accounts of various events typically do not coincide with each other, or they do not completely replicate each other. If you bring together 3 or 4 people who've witnessed a traffic accident, it's distinctly within the realm of possibility, and it is often the case that their accounts, that what they say happened, will differ from other people who are eyewitnesses to the accident. That's because none of us sees all the details. Various witnesses see different things. They remember different things. And because that's true in our own time, differences of eyewitnesses, it's not at all difficult to believe that the witnesses to Jesus' resurrection also remembered different things. It's also important to remember that the Gospel according to Matthew and Luke and Mark and John, none of them were written as first-hand accounts. All of the Gospels depended on oral traditions. And none of these Gospels was written from exactly the same location. which means that as the Gospels were written, as the Gospel writers had access to the various stories of the resurrection, in some oral traditions, particular things were emphasized, and in other oral traditions, other things were emphasized. And so we have the possibility that that the Gospel narratives, as they assembled these oral traditions, would quite naturally develop narratives that differ in some slight degree, but all of them affirm that Christ was resurrected from the dead. Now, I want to add just one other item in closing. It's really outside the text for today's scripture lesson, but at the very end of Matthew's Gospel, of course, we have the Great Commission. And the Great Commission emphasizes the making of disciples, and there are two things that are important to the making of disciples: baptizing them and teaching them. And in Matthew's Gospel, Jesus says to his followers that they are to teach everything that he commanded them. In a way, anyone who teaches Sunday school today comes under that aspect of the Great Commission. Our job as Sunday school teachers is to teach everything that Jesus commanded. We are to teach the whole text of Scripture, but we're to teach everything that Jesus commanded. And in the Gospel of Matthew, a good place to start is with the Sermon on the Mount.